So advisors for former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg reportedly see the results of the New Hampshire primary as a potential opening for him to decide to get into this race. A senior advisor to John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign is quoted in the Wall Street Journal as saying that the current field is weak and unelectable. Quote, any combination of them in a general election would open a path for an independent candidate. There's a big opening in the middle of the electorate, and Bloomberg is on point in that space. So let's see what our panel thinks about that idea. Tony Sayegh is a Republican political analyst and campaign consultant, Executive Vice President of Jamestown Associates and a Fox News contributor. And David Goodfriend is former Deputy Staff Secretary to President Bill Clinton. Good to have you both here, Tony and David. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Tony, let me start with you. What do you think? Is it a likely candidacy for Michael Bloomberg?
Well, he's obviously concluded three things to even entertain it, and he said it himself that he's entertaining this. Number one, that Hillary could lose the nomination. Number two, that Bernie Sanders is not an acceptable alternative on the Democrat side. And number three, that Donald Trump can win the nomination. And here we are again, Martha, just 2 days after a devastating loss in New Hampshire with more bad headlines for Hillary Clinton, which is really going to be a problem for her leading up to South Carolina. Bloomberg's problem is the following. He's really unacceptable to both. We have an expression of politics. If you walk down the middle of the road, you're going to get hit by a car on either side. For conservatives, they're not going to like his global warming positions and his gun control positions. For Democrats, who are animated over this whole idea of wealth inequality and income inequality and Wall Street, they don't want a Wall Street billionaire who calls himself a fiscal conservative. So I don't really see the space for him outside maybe the Northeast, which would hurt Democrats in a general election.
Unfortunately, my audio is breaking up a little bit. Maybe they can work on that, but I just want to make sure I can hear you guys right. David, let me go over to you for a moment here with this idea about Bloomberg and whether or not he could get in. When I look at the superdelegate issue and what happened in New Hampshire, it's kind of hard to figure out a way that Hillary Clinton won't sew up this nomination, regardless of how many people out there like Bernie Sanders.
Well, I want to agree with something Tony said, which is the Bloomberg candidacy assumes that Hillary Clinton's not the nominee. That's correct. He's saying if Bernie Sanders is on one side and Donald Trump is on the other, that leaves an opening in the middle for Michael Bloomberg. Hillary Clinton, I think, though, is going to deny him that opportunity. I think she will be the nominee, and she does have the chops to capture and go after the center.
All right, I want to play the latest Bernie Sanders ad and talk a little bit about what he is, what his platform is and whether or not that's actually getting any real attention in the discussion of this race so far. He has great ads, by the way, probably the best political ads that we've seen so far in this season in terms of look and feel and how much they attract attention. Here is Bernie Sanders' new piece.
When we stand together and demand that this country work for all of us rather than the few, we will transform America, and that is what this campaign is about. It's bringing people together.
Well, Bernie makes no bones about it, Tony. He wants to transform America. He wants free health care for everybody, paid for by the government. He also wants the government to pay for college for everybody. And it's pretty tough to see what he doesn't want the government to pay for, essentially, except perhaps maybe your groceries, although I'm sure he would like to see, a lot of people get that covered as well, which already are, by the food stamp program. So, do you think that it's getting lost in the shuffle that this, nice older man from Vermont wants to basically make this a socialist country?
Well, Hillary Clinton's following right behind him, Martha. Look, Bernie Sanders is winning the argument. This is the big story of the first two contests in Iowa and New Hampshire. The majority of Democrats, or rather I should say the plurality, 43%, identify themselves as socialists. Most Democrats identify themselves as progressives. Don't forget, this is not the Democrat Party, the new Democrat moderate centrist party of Bill Clinton. So what you've seen consistently is Sanders setting the terms of the debate, winning the argument among the people, and Hillary following suit, not getting the same reaffirmation from the electorate because they don't view her as really authentically the champion for their issues the same way they view Sanders.
I'm just wondering, David, at what point does he sort of turn his focus from Wall Street, who he sees as, the big boogeyman in the room, to his own party, where he's about to get in a very difficult situation under this superdelegate regime? I mean, why isn't he saying, that they're the big problem? They're the ones who are probably going to shut him out, not Wall Street.
Well, I certainly think you are going to see some internal party debates over what is the soul of the Democratic Party. But I think there's nothing unusual about that. We've seen that in prior elections as well. In fact, something I always point out is that the independent candidate Bob LaFollette, the progressive candidate from my home state of Wisconsin, lost a presidential election, but did absolutely influence FDR, who then did put in a lot of place the New Deal. And in this case, you see the same kind of dynamic, an independent, somebody who's sort of on the outside of the Democratic Party, but trying to move the party in a certain direction. That's not unusual. We've seen it for decades.
So you're not bothered by his socialist, his wanting to transform America.
But I don't see it that way. I mean, let me be clear.
He said it. He just said it in his ad.
When he said at Georgetown University that every time this country has reformed and included, that's been cast as sort of socialism or communism by the other side, including Medicare, including Obamacare.
No.
I don't think it's just a question of how big the government gets. It's a purely, political, description kind of.
And that's
connection.
an argument. Martha, that's an argument I think every Republican wants to have be the terms of the debate in the general election. So that's why, frankly, we are much better off in some respects, at least on the ideology side, with Bernie Sanders, although Hillary Clinton has her character flaws.
Both ends of the spectrum attracting quite a bit of attention at this point. It keeps it really interesting. Thank you very much, Tony and David. Good to see you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.